Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Over Your Shoulder, a series where I follow unsuspecting players and give unsolicited advice. Today's target is Nikodiemus, a level 124 with some serious play experience under the belt. As I follow Nikodiemus around today, I'll give tips and advice about what's working well and what could be better. So with the introductions over, let's look over Nikodiemus' shoulder. Let's see what we got on Nikodiemus. We got ourselves an LSAT, Cobra, flash hider, and a stubby grip. This is a recipe for holding down the trigger. Although the LSAT is one of my favorite LMGs at mid-range, I do have to say that it may not be the best choice for Lumpy Garden. Looks like we're jumping on a bike and going mobile with a teammate. Oh, and the UK have almost took out their team. Definitely a favorite of mine on this map. We are in trusting hands right now as we are on the bike with a teammate heading towards, the enemy team in its entirety. Woo, baby. Alright, now we're playing for keeps and we're heading for Delta, and again, it looks like the enemy team is in control at this point. It'd probably be taking it slow and sticking to cover. Not the method of Nikodiemus right now. He's going in, guns a-blazing. Gets 2 kills, gets himself taken out. We've returned in the middle of the enemy team again. Well, close enough to it to be in trouble. Yeah, but all you can do is stick to cover here and try to pick off a few, see what you can do. Again, I think the LSAT's not going to do you a little huge amount of favors, but he's doing a good job of tap firing it. I think the stubby grip might be not quite as good of a choice in this case. Instead of the stubby grip, I would probably go with the angle grip or something else that would help you with that first shot recoil multiplier. Now Nikodiemus is getting a little bit of work done here, but I think these flags would be calling my name at this point, so I'd be trying to push to one or the other. And I'd really start getting concerned here about that flank possible from Delta to my left. And that's exactly what takes him down. So far we've been getting a couple of kills in, but a lot of deaths, and not a whole lot of action on the flags. Let's see if we can make it to one of the points in this life. Again, we're just sort of trying to hold off the enemy team as they work in a giant clash between the two teams here at Delta and Charlie. The overall flag situation is in Nikodiemus' team's favor. This is kind of an interesting point he's found himself at again. There's a lot of traffic that comes from Delta and Charlie through this general area, and he's going to end up intercepting a bunch of it here, which is a plus to his team, but at the same time he's not really on any points and he's not helping to capture any points, so this might be a detriment if he stays here for too long. I also think that not pushing on that Delta point is going to be an overall detriment to his team if it stays in enemy hands. Probably be facing towards Delta at this point after cleaning up this enemy and trying to go and get myself a flag so I don't have to worry about this traffic very much longer, because you are really exposed right here. And it looks like his teammates are taking care of Delta right now, which is what he should probably be helping out with if he wants to stem the tide of enemy reinforcements. At the same time, he's doing a good job of making sure that his teammates actually did clean up the enemy that was back here. That flashing gun that was on the ground is a clue that the enemy's dead. Doing a good job of spotting and controlling his shots when he is taking them. He's being a little bit carefree when it comes to finding cover. Right now, anybody that spawns on the enemy team has a free and clear shot at it. Finally gets to that cover, which I think I would have done a long time ago. Definitely see a lot of enemies here on the map. Whenever you see enemies on the minimap, that's your cue to start playing it slow. And yeah, you pay for it there. It's always a little bit of a risk when you run into an enemy team and you're not playing it slow. Like, you might end up finding yourself in the middle of them and killing them all, or you might find yourself in the middle of them and being killed by all of them. If they don't know where you are, it's a good idea to set a trap for them by just playing it slow. He's found himself a little bit of cover here. He's coming up with a couple of shots here and there, trying to clean up the enemies that are sort of making themselves available to him. And we can see an enemy's just popped up on the minimap, and I think he's got a little bit of tunnel vision that's definitely going to cost him here. So whenever you're getting work done from a single position, you want to have an internal timer in your head that says it's time to move. Because when you kill an enemy, they're going to be thinking about you in their next life. And again, we're killed by the lack of cover, and if he'd only stepped forward a few feet instead of just sitting back, he might have lived. So far, Nikodiemus' big problem seems to be that he can't stick to cover enough to save his own life. In my mind, whenever I'm moving to a point, I like to think about what my nearest cover is and how I can run a route that runs myself along that. Next time you're playing, try to visualize that yourself. So Nikodiemus has finally helped manage to capture a point, and it looks like the game is still in the US team's favor, and definitely not in the Chinese team's favor. Does do a good job of spotting those enemies and laying down some fire, but at this range, on this map, you probably want to switch it up from the Cobra if you're going to be trying to take shots. I actually think that the medium range scopes are not a bad idea on this map. And it's that lack of care that gets Nikodiemus killed again. I would probably, as I was saying, be using a medium scope on this map or something with a little bit more range, because there are these wide open areas that enemies can cross and you can sort of pick them off in. The RDS scopes, and to a lesser extent the 1x scopes, don't do quite as good a job as the medium scopes, and they definitely don't help you quite as much on this map. And I feel like there's a lot of these little spots and nooks and crannies where you can just get stuck in Dragon's Teeth maps, and it kind of drives me crazy, actually. I end up getting caught and killed on those a lot, and again, it looks like Nikodiemus fails to see these enemies that are just in his baffles, runs forward a little bit too early, and gets caught in the crossfire. Game's not currently going in Nikodiemus' team's favor. The US team is ahead by about 150 tickets now. And really, this lack of care on his behalf is really going to get him killed a lot more in this game, I have a feeling. At this point, I'd be trying to make my way to that crate and just doesn't come up with it. So it's really that lack of care that is just kicking him in the pants. There have been just so many times where he's been in a great position and he's just gotten trounced by the enemy team because he runs forward too early or isn't next to cover. 2 enemy grenades in close proximity, manages to get away from him. So you saw those 2 grenades, you know they had to have come from someone, and here's your culprit. Since there are 2, you know there's another enemy nearby, and there he is. I think I might have peeked that ridgeline a little bit more slowly, but whenever you see enemy grenades and you don't see enemies on the minimap, you know that there are enemies nearby. Again, Lumpy Garden has a lot of open spaces, so you want to try and find cover as quickly as possible, and he's doing a good job of clearing out the spot to shoot from. But at the same time, you know that there's probably going to be enemies up there on top of A, and he gets taken out by one of them. Looks, however, like he got a res, so let's jump back on him. Only a 40 res, so not so good, and probably going to die again, just like that. So in the last couple of lives, we've seen Nikodiemus die quite a bit to fatalities that could have been prevented simply by being a little bit more cautious and careful, especially with where he's going on the map. Right here, not a whole lot of clutter, so you probably want to make your way towards clutter as quickly as possible. On Lumpy Garden, there's almost always a squad's worth of campers watching from A towards the other points, so you don't want to make yourself an easy target for them. So you know that the enemy is going to be coming from that right side, so I'd probably be trying to keep an eye on that, at least in my periphery. It's a US spawn, so you have to be careful. You can see on the minimap there's a couple of enemies, and again, not playing cautiously, runs into one of them. So this is pretty quickly going in the US team's favor. They're ahead by about 220 points now. And again, Nikodiemus needs to find ways to keep his skin alive. Manages to continue running out in the open here. He could be killed by anybody, and there's one of them. I'm pretty sure we all see a common theme by now. Looks like he got a res, so we're going to jump back on him again. His teammates have helped out in his situation quite a bit here a couple of times. Interesting use of C4 to come up with a kill there, not bad. So he definitely knows how to kill people. Staying alive, though, it seems to be a bit of a challenge for Nikodiemus so far. Another thing I'd like to point out here is how many objects in Dragon's Teeth look like you should be able to jump on them. Now let's take a quick peek at the tabletop and see the situation going on here. It looks like Delta is still being a problem for this Chinese team. I want to say that would probably be my priority target at this point in time. Try and pick up that Delta so you don't have the US team spawning here in the back end. And definitely doing a lot of shooting there, not a lot of coming up with targets. Again, I don't think that Cobra sight's doing him any favors. My own personal favorite on Lumpy Garden is a DMR with a medium range sight. It's great for these long range engagements. Looks like we got some good momentum going here from the Chinese team towards Delta. Doing a good job of picking up the targets that other people don't seem to be seeing or shooting at. Didn't come up with a kill again. I think that a medium range scope might have come in handy on this map. Alternatively, it might have even been useful to deploy a bipod here, as there are large wide open lanes that you can cover with the bipod swivel. And you can see that we're slowly making our way towards the middle of the map. Since we're silent, it's probably going to come up with a couple of kills here before we get spotted, although there is that enemy UAV flying overhead, so it's going to be a little bit difficult to stay unseen for a long amount of time here. The moment that UAV sees you, it's going to be game over, and now you're spotted, so you better watch out. And just like that, there's that kill from A again. We finally managed to take Delta here, or we're in the process of taking it. It looks like cleaning up the last of the enemy team. There's still a few more on the minimap, and oh my, there are quite a few that just spawned back there, so no lucking out that time. So it's only behind by about 180 tickets. We closed the gap a little bit here, but I want to say that this game is probably not going to go China's way unless some kind of miracle happens where they take 3 points and just hold on to them. They've got 3 points right now, but we'll see if they can do it. I've seen crazier comebacks, and it would be pretty interesting if the Chinese can pull it off. Thus far, they haven't proven their ability to hold on to 3 points for the rest of the match, although it could turn around at this point, so this could get interesting. Nikodiemus going for a bike ride. I actually kind of like, well, nope, not anymore. Let's see where the current position of the Chinese team is. It looks like we're pushing towards Charlie. It looks like the Chinese backside is being threatened there at Echo, so we could have a problem here at both Charlie and Echo for the Chinese team. So as Nikodiemus, I would either try to attack A or work my way towards C. Nikodiemus is making his way to that trouble A spot. He's finally gotten himself in it, and I think this is where this close-range scope and the silencer might actually pay off on this map, because it's one of the few close-quarter areas on this map. Definitely going to have a little bit of trouble spotting enemies here, just because of all the clutter on screen. He's all alone here, so he should definitely be playing more carefully. And the problem he's going to have is that he's going to be spotted very quickly here, and they know that he's here. And once you know that the enemy knows that you're somewhere, you need to start playing it safe and start playing it cautiously, because they're all going to be looking for you. Speaking of the whole enemy team, back with Nikodiemus, let's see, we're still working on this A point. The team has still managed to hold on to 3 points so far, so we've closed the gap to only about 140 tickets. The US team is still out killing the Chinese team by quite a bit though, so unless they can hold on to these points for a good while more, it's not really going to matter. And Nikodiemus is taking a really big risk here, making himself a silhouette on top of this mountain. I talked about this in an earlier video, but silhouetting yourself against the skyline is probably one of the easiest ways to get yourself killed. It makes you extremely easy to pick out as a target, and it basically makes yourself a sniper's dream. And trust me, there are no shortage of snipers on this map, especially at A, which is the point we're trying to assault here. There's a lot of running and gunning and a lot of continuous movement while aiming down sight. It's costing him dearly here. Back with Nikodiemus, it looks like the Chinese team's still in trouble here, looks like they're starting to take back this Charlie point and maybe taking back that Echo point as well. Doing a good job of holding it down, checking out that mini-map for targets coming in. So he definitely knows how to play aggressively, but keeping himself alive again, still a little bit of a challenge. Manages to come up with both of those kills, I think, because the enemy just didn't happen to see him. So if your strategy is YOLO, the silencer might not be a bad idea. So far, a lot of these problems are very similar to my own plays problems, where I'll get overly aggressive at the incorrect times, or I won't think about, hey, maybe I can slow down my play at this point in time. I get overly excited, and I really want to rush in and just kill every enemy I can see. And it's clear that Nikodiemus can outshoot a lot of his enemies. And again, he's gotten himself in this great flanking position where he can take out a ton of enemies with a little bit of caution and effort. And about every bullet in his gun. So a better idea there might have been to cautiously peek that corner, slowly take out as many as he could, and if more spawn, simply use the C4 and throw it in there to blow them all up. But I know how it is when you see a bunch of enemies in front of an LSAT or any other LMG, you just want to kill them all. The bloodthirst takes over and you lose all sense of what's around you. Looks like the Chinese team is in control of 3 points again. The game is close to 60 tickets, so it's getting a little bit closer. I think it might be anybody's game if they manage to hold on to these points for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Nikodiemus has done a good job of pushing them back from the center of the map. Again, we're a little bit exposed here in the water. Anybody at Bravo can see you down here, and they're definitely looking at you because they know to expect it. And that's going to be a lot of kills for the commander. Oh my god, look at that wipeout on the minimap. That's a 4-kill cruise missile. Holy crap. I would be pissed if I were on the enemy team right now. Holy shit. And a little bit of credit to Nikodiemus there. He did manage to come up with 2 of those kills before the commander stole the rest from him. A little bit exposed from Bravo, as I was saying before. And good intuition here, seeing the minimap and seeing the fact that this is getting overrun, but again, a little bit too aggressive. Again, I think another situation where if he'd played it slow, he probably would have lived. And here's something that's not a bad idea in a lot of the Dragon's Teeth maps. There are a lot of these low walls that you can just chuck C4 over and come up with a lot of kills if you're clever. Just pay attention to the minimap and you'll know the situations to use it in. One of my favorite maps to do this on is Propaganda, where there are all kinds of low walls like this. And especially on Rush, where you can tend to get multi-kills with C4 over the wall. Manages to come up with a kill there on an enemy that doesn't seem to be paying attention very much to the situation. I would be very leery about coming down here. Again, a very aggressive play. I like it, but at the same time, there's no cover against B here, and you're probably just going to get killed in about the next minute or two. It's actually kind of surprising that the enemy team hasn't eliminated them yet, but I think they seem to have a little bit more on their plate there on the bridge. Being out in the open is a pretty risky play, and he could have gotten the same amount of action from the bridge here, which gives cover and great sight lines into Bravo. So looking at the scoreboard, the Chinese team has actually managed to take the lead from the US team here late in the game. They've done a good job of holding on to these 3 points for most of the match, and if the US team doesn't act, this game is going to be over soon. I think here I would be shooting from the top of the bridge rather than the bottom because you get a much better coverage of Bravo. And again, Nikodiemus is taking an awful risk here by putting himself out in the open and taking shots that he could otherwise take from the bridge, and it looks like he just got a sniper shot and just took a rocket in the pooper. C is no man's land currently, and it looks like Nikodiemus has spawned close enough to it to affect the outcome of battle. I think I would definitely be getting on that point because it does mean the difference between winning and losing here, and a little bit too much aggression again. If you're going to be that aggressive, you have to absolutely know where your enemies are. And the last chance the Chinese team has here to win is taking either Charlie or Bravo here, and I think they're in a good position to do either if they would only just get on the point. And even though you need to hurry, in these final moments of a game you need to be smart because the enemy knows you're desperate. Getting a squad wipe at the end of the game is just not acceptable. So this game is actually coming down to the wire here. It looks like Nikodiemus is helping to hang on to Charlie for his team. Still possible US comeback here if they manage to take a point or two. Probably not likely at this point though. Usually the team that is in control of them tends to hold on to them. This late in the game I usually try to stick towards a point just in case of that miracle comeback. Because if you end up needing it in real life, you don't want to throw it away just like that. Against the odds, the Chinese team comes up with the win. I think a lot of the success comes down to the team's ability to take and hold points and some timely pushes from Nikodiemus. For Nikodiemus, I think the big message from this round is that you need to slow down and play the game a bit safer. There were a lot of times where you were in great positions and a little bit more caution would have let you ruin the enemy team. Additionally, there were a few times where Nikodiemus was strafing from side to side while firing and aiming down sights, which will really wreck a weapon's accuracy. I think working on these two things, in addition to playing the objective a bit harder, would have meant a crushing victory for the Chinese team. But that's it for this episode of Over Your Shoulder. If you like this episode, be sure to leave a like before you go. If you're new around here, be sure to check out my channel and please consider subscribing. If you'd like the chance to be featured in a future episode of Over Your Shoulder, please send me a message with your Battlelog info. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.